Okay, welcome back. And as already mentioned in this video, we will continue plotting the coronavirus COVID-19 epidemic dynamics in Yerevan. So having created the color map, which fades into transparency, we can now go ahead and use it actually. So before we actually use the created color map to plot the exposed compartment over time, we will first plot the grid background, okay? So we will do the following. Face color will be none, because we don't want any face color on the grid. Edge color will be gray, so that it's nice and smooth and doesn't stick out too sharply. Then we'll also use a 0.5 transparency. We specify also the edge width of the grid as also 0.5, and we specify the Z order. So this Z order tells Matplotlib the order to give priority during plotting. So if we'll put a 2 here, and then we'll gradually build on top. Okay, so the next one will be 3, and then 4, and then 5, and each successive number will tell Matplotlib that each successive plot should actually be plotted on top of the previous one. So now we can finally plot the exposed group. Remember, we should use the column. We will use the new CMap which we created. Yeah, this one. And we'll specify a Z order of 3, as I mentioned a few seconds ago. Okay, so now we can add a background. Remember, we do it with Contextily. So we add the base map. We specify the axis on which we want to build it, namely our plot. We specify the attribution parameter to an empty space. What this means, let me show it quickly to you. And oh yeah, I have it already open. So if you remember here when we did the plot, there you go. Okay, so there is actually a copyright watermark over here. It's small, you can't really see it, but that's because the image is large. Here it's 40 by 40. But on a typical image which you do, which is quite small, it's like if you take like 10 by 10 or 15 by 15, then this will be quite large and annoying, okay? So in order to get rid of that watermark, you should set the attribution parameter of the add base map method to an empty string. Next, we specify the URL to use what kind of background style to use for the map. So here we use the default one, but for our animation we will use another one which is black and white, or black and gray, I would say. So the URL is stored in the CTX sources and is called toner lead. And you can find more about this if you Google it. For example, you do Contextily tiles, and you go to the Contextily GitHub repo, and here you can find all the different available tiles and you want to use. You can use the terrain background, I don't know, terrain with labels, you know, all kinds of stuff, even a watercolor design. Anyway, we will stick to the tonal lead, And next we'll also add a zoom factor of auto, which will tell Contextily to find the best zoom level it considers to be correct, and also an alpha level of 0.6 to make the background fade away a bit into the background. Having created the background, we can now set the boundaries as we have done many times before. We turn off the axis to have nice plots, and we also add a tight layout. Oops. To make the plot nice and neat and maximum stretch to its boundaries. Okay, so we have the background plot with the exposed dynamics at each time step ready. Now, so if we go to the GIF we want to recreate, we will see that we have already basically made the background with the epidemic dynamics, and now we want to recreate this here. So we need to create an inset plot on top of the main plot we already created. So in the next video, I'll show you how to do exactly this, so stay with me.